Everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is our 53rd week of doing this, believe it or not, Adam. Yesterday, happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh, man, I would have brought you flowers, but, whatever. So as everybody is joining the fun and frivolity here, just a reminder, use the Q&A button to hit us up with questions. I got one that came in already. Use the chat. You can harass us. And I'm wearing the Clean Juice t-shirt today because we are going to do a little bit deeper dive on some of the stuff with the whole restaurant relief portion of this gigantic bill that just passed a couple weeks ago. So thank you, Clean Juice. I enjoyed their dragon fruit acai bowl last night. Fantastic. So highly recommend that. Jack is getting hydrated so that he can be ready to just put those Google mastery skills, as Adam.
Gotta get the fingers lubricated.
So it's good. He's ready to roll. I can see him stretching there. It's great. So Adam, before we launch into some of these questions already, so the first question, I'll just address this right now. Has the PPP deadline been extended? Either one of you guys want to take that?
As far as I know, the answer is no, unless Adam feels differently. It's halfway through, but as of yesterday, and I tried to find something this morning, the Senate is still doing whatever they're not doing, and which is getting this passed the 31st, which is 5-6 days from now. Have you heard anything else differently, Adam?
No, I don't know. I could always laugh about bigger fish to fry, but it's like, anywho.
Yeah,
I'm not knocking it, but it's like, remember that I've preached for a while, tax rates have to go up to pay for all this stuff. But Bernie Sanders is currently proposing the tax rate increase in addition to the infrastructure spending bill in the budget committee, of which he's the chair. But we can't just take like 2 seconds to pass this. The other side of the aisle is talking about how we never used a filibuster for Jim Crow. Come on, that's factually incorrect. It's on the freaking Senate website that you did. It's like, hey, we can't extend a deadline.
Yeah, my theory.
I'll get off my cynicism for a minute.
Well, my theory was that they are using it to put pressure and just get things into the system sooner than later, and not giving the relief valve. Even now, 6 days away with an intervening weekend, it's people are sweating it. So hopefully it happens soon, because then it still has to go to the president's desk, which presumably he would sign. But we'll see what happens.
Right.
So before we go into questions, either of you guys have any diatribes from all the conversations that we have every week with various business owners, and heartburn and questions that seem to be recurring out there?
Yeah, I'll get angry for a minute again that, so California didn't go all the way in terms of allowing you to deduct the PPP expenses. They could form more like Virginia, which is where they give you the first $150,000 on us. So I would like to point out to all our North Carolina residents on the call that apparently California, let me say it again, California is more pro-business than North Carolina. California is more pro-business than North Carolina right now when it comes to helping small businesses out during a pandemic. So anyway, now that I'm getting off the soapbox and moving on, actually I will stay on the soapbox for a minute. So they passed. So the deep dive for today, and I don't know how deep we can go because there's still not any guidance out on it, but for the restaurant relief that was packed in the last stimulus legislation, the word on the street was the SBA would be weeks away. Well, we're now weeks away from having the ability to apply for the loan. So, or the grant, it's a grant, so
Yeah.
it's doesn't have to be repaid back. So they've given some calculations that are out there on what you can qualify for, but it's effectively, revenue reduction between 2019 and 2020, less what you received in PPP funds. I mean, that's not the exact formula. It's technically 2019 minus 2020 plus PPP1 and PPP2. The EIDL loan is not included in that. But if you're open in the interim in 2019, you can use annualized 2019 numbers. And then if you open in 2020, this is actually great news. If you open in 2020, then it's just your eligible expenses that you incurred. And it follows pretty similar, it tracks pretty similarly to PPP in terms of what are eligible expenses. The first wave of the applications are going to be focused on small minority owned restaurants, which is pretty much anything that's in food service, bars, nightclubs, food trucks. I mean, they have a laundry list of stuff. But I think that the soapbox moment is that A, they haven't released any guidance. B, it's looking like there's some hoops you're going to have to jump through. They haven't changed any of this yet. But if people remember when the EIDL grant came out, pretty much, I might as well have sliced open my finger, and then filled out an application in blood, because that's about what it felt like to fill out the first application for EIDL, which the SBA subsequently threw out and said, if you use that process, sorry, we threw it out, try again. So with the grant, in the absence of any real published guidance, they're saying that, hey, you got to go get a DUNS number if you don't have one yet. And then you have to register in this grant application, and you have to upload this affidavit letter basically saying that you need the money into the grant application. Who knows if that's actually going to last? But that's the steps that you need to do now to get pre-registered. And will that actually be what stays, in place? Who actually knows? But that's what it is today. So it's, the soapbox moment is that, hey, it really stinks that the SBA hasn't released anything yet. Sorry about the dogs in the background, going on mute.
Hey, well, while the dogs are barking, so some of the information that we got, there are a couple articles out there, but there's one that I thought was pretty good in Food and Wine. And basically, you've got to have a DUNS number, which he was talking about. It's Data Universal Numbering System. And it's like a federal tax ID. It's free, but it can take several days. So if you do not have one and you are a restaurant owner, you can call the Dun & Bradstreet hotline, and I will put that phone number in the chat, as well as I'll just put their phone number, but it's for Dun & Bradstreet in case you don't have to do it. But you're going to get asked basic information on name and address, but also year of opening, total number of employees, and banking information. So just so you know, and I will put that in the chat.
So how about I go through a couple of numbers on a couple of things. So generally speaking, just to show you kind of the progress of kind of what's going on. So the concept is acceleration of the PPP program, and how are they doing that? So statistics, SBA has responded to 35% of forgiveness requests on Numerated's platform. And Numerated, I think, is a company and technology that the government is using to process a lot of this stuff. And so it's up from 29% a week before. 55% of small businesses have begun PPP forgiveness application, and about 51% have submitted their application to respective lenders. So some other information. So forgiven fully or partially 2.1 million loans, and is reviewing 234,000 more as of last week. They have yet to receive about 2.8 million applications out of the 5.2 million loans the SBA has made. Most forgiveness applications have been using the 3508S, which is for loans of less than $150,000. What I just said applies to 2020 loans, not to 2021 loans, because those are still in process and they're aggregating data and statistics. So it doesn't include that. Just as a point of comparison between last week and this week, last week we said it was 2.7 million loans worth $181 billion. And this week, that number has increased from 2.7 to 3.1 million loans, and from 881 billion to 195 billion, out of the total $284.45 billion, meaning basically there's still a lot of money left in the program. And then it expanded to, as you know, nonprofits and other places. As far as and we'll get into this maybe a little bit further, but on the restaurant side of things, a $28.6 billion grant to restaurants. So as of yesterday, the way the program is supposed to work is that if grants of up to 10 million based on lost revenue, with 5 billion of the total amount, 5 billion of the total amount of what's available set aside for businesses that made less than $500,000 in 2019 revenue. As Adam said, we just still don't know a lot about it. They've been meaning industry people and just business owners in general, have been putting a lot of pressure on Congress, on the SBA, to basically say, okay, this money's been sitting there. It's been sitting there. We've gone through similar programs like the PPP program. We have the infrastructure in place. So what is taking so long to get this going? So as there was a hearing yesterday, and as the regulators, the SBA people were being pressured, they finally broke down and said, all right, here's the deal, that we will provide more guidance in the next 7 to 10 days, that we will move into a pilot phase and then a broader opening that would come into existence. They use the word unfurl in 30 to 45 days. So that's really kind of the status of where things are with respect to the restaurant program, which is, as we've had to say many times before on different issues, we're getting little sound bites in where we might go with this, or might be receiving information, but we yet do not know where things are going to go. The good news is that they intend on leveraging off of the PPP infrastructure system, which we've all had to live through the bugs on PPP-1, hopefully better for PPP-2, hopefully even better for the restaurant program for this $28 billion. So that's an update on that. And relatedly, before we get into questions, because we are talking about restaurants, there are some other things that are going on in Congress and also regulatory agencies like the Department of Labor, and that they're essentially reversing some of the Trump era rules and processes. And two things in particular. One really important is that there was a Trump proposal, or actually it was actually put in place, that allowed businesses to pay a lower minimum wage of $2.13 per hour to tipped workers. And the way that works is that they were bifurcating the duties of a worker between actually servicing, and I don't know how they logistically were doing this, but doing their main job and then doing other things that I guess they considered menial, which were things like, putting silverware and napkins and doing general cleaning and those kind of things. So I don't know if it was a blended rate or what it might be. So what they did was they extended the implementation of that, or the reversal of that, through May 7th. And now they're saying, well, let's wait till the end of the year and see how things kind of turn out. So we're not going to basically allow that to continue. So the federal minimum wage is currently $7.25. And then there's another proposal that is in the process of being reversed with respect to tip pool. And that's where you have the front end people sharing tips with the back end people, and putting it into a general place, and then you have rules. There's all kinds of fun rules that I'm sure our restaurant owner clients know, that if you're management, you don't get to participate in the tip pool. But what happens when you're acting as a server and not in your management capacity? So all kinds of issues with that. So it's a long-winded way of saying there are other things that are going on that outside of PPP, EIDL, that are going to impact some of you with respect to your hourly workers, and other things that Trump put into place. Some things that are beneficial to owners, some things that are not beneficial to owners, which by, I guess, implication has the reverse effect on individual workers. So just a few things to share before we get to questions.
Well, one of the first questions that came in actually early this morning was from Ron. And here's the question. Is there any reason that lending institutions would not submit PPP loan forgiveness applications to the SBA?
Well, I will think that, and Adam, you're on mute, so I'll go first. I think it's when we talked about the get out of jail card, which is, and if I understand the question, is why wouldn't they pull the trigger? Like, they are receiving the applications from borrowers, but why are they not pushing it into the system? And I think it is because they want to make sure that there's nothing that can blow back on them, and that they have a clear pathway to basically just pushing the paper through, and that is the extent of their responsibility. And so, and then also, the applications that go through, but then the money that comes back, that there's no blowback on them, that they might have to give it back. Because understand what's happening is that the banks are giving out money from their pot of money, and the SBA basically, when you go through this forgiveness process, is depositing that money back into the bank's account. So, I'm not particularly familiar with the terms and conditions of that, but I am sure there are clawback provisions in there that allow the SBA to come grab that money back out of the bank account of the bank under certain circumstances. And they want to make sure that that list of possibilities for the clawback is as small as possible. So again, a lot of Jack theory in that, but I think that from what I've read, that is one of the main reasons why the trigger, the flow of documentation hasn't gotten up to the SBA. And having said that, though, you've seen basically on the statistics that I shared a little while ago that there is paper flowing, and there is forgiveness flowing, and there is money coming from the SBA back into those bank accounts, mostly on PPP1, not necessarily on PPP2.
Yeah, I concur with Jack. And, the only additional comment that I'd make is that, if you've got concerns that, oh my gosh, it's because they're going to reject my application, right now we're at 0 rejected applications. So I don't think you have a real cause for that concern. It really is exactly what Jack said, we believe.
All right, next question is up from Mark. Does the SBA require using the same forgiveness period for PPP2 as PPP1? We used the 8-week period for PPP1, but based on my estimates, may not have enough expenses in this period to qualify in 8 weeks. I'll have plenty to qualify if we can use 24 weeks for PPP2.
Yeah, I mean, Jack fact checked me, but I thought it was exactly the same.
Well, I think there's two different things, which is the use of the fund, the timing of applying for, and the comparison of numbers versus what time period you're actually going to use those funds during. So you still have a choice between the time where, in previous times it was, you had to make a choice. You had a choice. Prior to that, there was no choice. It was, you had to go with one or the other. So they've opened up the ability for some flexibility in doing that, but you can't use the forgiveness period. So I'm assuming you're meaning coverage period and use of the funds is,
yeah.
You can't double dip on the time for the use of funds.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm reading it right now. You can choose the length of your cover period as long as it's not fewer than 8 weeks and no more than 24 weeks.
All right, cool. Next question is from Robert. I understand the qualifications for ERTC, thanks to the BGW email. Awesome, thanks for the shout out. What I don't understand is what the benefit provides. Is it a tax credit of the wages paid that were not part of wages used for PPP? Is the credit a dollar credit for each dollar spent on wages, or is it a fraction of the wages?
So, couple embedded parts to that question. So, first off, Robert, love you. If you don't apply and you qualify, you're a bozo. It's free money. So let me just get that out of the way first. As a taxpayer, you can thank me later for that. So, with respect to what you get is up to I want to say it's $14,000 of employee wage expense in the form of a credit. So what that means, in real numbers, is that if I have $100,000 payroll, and I qualify, then I've got up to $14,000 per person that potentially qualify for the use of this credit, assuming that I meet the qualifying criteria. The way the credit shows up is one of two ways. Way number one is that, which is what pretty much everybody's doing. Way number one is, same $100,000 payroll, you would have needed to have remitted 30 grand of that or so to cover your portion of the employer Social Security taxes, as well as the employee withholding. So what happens is you just don't have to remit that. Or if you've already remitted it, you get a credit that you can utilize against it for the next time you have to remit. So, $100,000 payroll, I went ahead and had the $100,000 fully paid in, government's got their money, go back and say, hey, I should have gotten a $30,000 credit. The next payroll that's 100 grand, I only got to pop 70 grand in there, which is how my $30,000 shows up. So the only thing you got to navigate around is that, similar to everything else, you just can't double dip. So if you're within your PPP covered period, you shouldn't be using the employee retention tax credit unless your wage expense is more than you're going to need to use for the purposes of your forgiveness application for PPP.
Very good questions and very in-depth answers.
So I'm seeing the question. So I'm seeing the question, Robert, as a follow up to that. I mean, it literally is, it's per employee. I mean, it really is that simple,
So that is answering the question that came via chat, which was, so how's the credit calculated? Is it a fraction of the payroll of the employee's wages? So
yeah, I mean, it's tagged, you're tagging people, so it's per employee. So it's dedicated to a live body because the credit attaches to a person. So like I can go 14 grand on Gary, I can go 14 grand on Jack, but once I've used the 14 grand on Gary and Jack, I'm out. I can't use them anymore.
Or if you try to, they're coming and looking for you, just like they did the lady that went on the spending spree at Neiman Marcus.
Woo!
Have you guys heard any more from any of the banks as far as hiccups or, it seems like what I've heard, smaller banks, again, some of the ones that we mention frequently on here, they've been opening things up. I haven't heard as much from some of the bigger banks. Some of my intel, my sources have been quiet. And I haven't been active in asking. Have you guys heard any disparities, things that people would want to know about?
I would say no other, not really. What I've heard is a continuation, but a diminishment or a lessening of the um, algorithmic errors, but they're still occurring with respect. Like if you miss a digit or do something that is just really a typographical error and it doesn't match up, the algorithm is going to spit it out. Similar to when you take your car to a dealership to get it inspected and they don't put the right VIN number in there, and then you try to re-register your license plate, and then the North Carolina DMV says, nope, not so fast, because they missed it by 1 digit. So those kind of things are continuing to happen, but not as often. I think that it's there is a little bit of continuing impatience as we talked about, that why is it not moving forward with my bank? But I'm not aware of anything that I could report to say that a particular bank is particularly slow, or there's an issue at any particular bank, or any reasoning for a slowdown. By all indications, I think the complaining, at least to me and to our firm, is less. So I don't know if we're just all numb to it and we're just, okay, well, whatever, or if it's really a reduction in the problems of processing and actually getting applications in and getting money out.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right. So any other questions out there? Happy to help in any way we can, but we don't want to belabor this if you guys are exhausted.
Well, one thing I want to mention in this, I don't expect that we have, I mean, I actually do have some venue operators, but don't expect that there's a whole lot of venue operators in the group. But the shuttered venue grant program may impact some of you in the sense that you are a part of or participate in venues. So for example, some of my clients at the Music Factory that have been waiting for the Fillmore and other things to kind of ramp up, and Noah Lazes has been on record and interviewed that it's a difficult position to be in. He's not the actual operator of all the venues, but so Ticketmaster and whoever else runs it. But so that program is $10 million. You can get a grant of up to $10 million. Talking about live venue operators, promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organizations, museums, zoos, aquariums, and theaters themselves. So this would also apply to, for example, if you're on nonprofit boards, in moonlighting on one of those boards, that this is kind of potentially what might be coming your way as far as assistance. And then they have a stair step. So it's first 14 days, you have to suffer a 90% loss or greater loss of revenue between April and December. And then the next 14 days are for venues that suffered a 70% revenue loss or more. And then after the first 28 days, then it's kind of all open to venue operators. So again, a couple of reasons why I'm sharing that is that if you're involved somehow with with those venues, or again, if you're involved with not the entertainment venues, but some of the museums, because when I first saw this, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking Verizon Amphitheater or whatever, PNC, whatever it's called now, but not really realizing that it deals with other things like museums and zoos, aquariums, and theaters. So see what happens with that. And I got some dumb dad jokes if we need to go that way too. All right, I got it.
I'm sure you do.
I gotta do it. All right. This is a statement. The success or failure of a pizza joke is all in the delivery. And see, I even screwed that up. All right, let's try again. Hey, do you need to build an ark because I know a guy? What did the tree say after a long winter? What a relief. Okay, I got more, but I'm gonna stop there.
Oh man,
I might turn people off.
The Cub Scout kids are loving that, man. I mean,
Yeah,
they're going to be tuning into this instead of cartoons.
The participant rate is going down by the second.
I know. Well, the funny thing
People
is
are
I
dropping.
have a 9-year-old nephew who likes to tell jokes like this. So that's why I'm collecting these. This is from that calendar I told you about last week. I'm collecting these. So when I see him this summer, we're just going to go through and I'm just going to bombard him with these since he likes to text us at all hours of the day and tell us jokes. So yes.
Oh, that's
One other thing. I owe somebody a gift card and I mistakenly, I gave it or offered it to someone a couple weeks ago. It's probably about a month ago. There were 2 winners and I haven't gone back to and rewound the tape on that day to see who it was. Cause I think we actually said the name on the recording. So if I legitimately owe you a $10 Starbucks card and you haven't received it yet, you would have received a code from me, then, let me know because I keep my promises.
And I can fact check that. So if somebody comes in and they're trying to, fraudulently claim that Starbucks card, I'm sorry, but the long arm of the law is coming after you.
Perfect. All right.
Adam, you got any additional thoughts before we sign off?
You've had it. It's been a slow week.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. Kind of a downer to celebrate our 1-year anniversary. And, but, Robert, we can count on Robert. He had really good questions. So Robert, kudos. And thanks for the shout out to BGW. We appreciate that. Oh, hey, we got another one here. Oh, happy anniversary. Yeah. Thank you. Who would have thought, man? I mean, 53 weeks into this is just crazy.
I feel like we should be on one of the stock tickers that shows, the 52-week chart when you look up stocks. So, that's when we hit 52, I was like, gosh, that sounds, oh yeah, we're like kind of like a stock now. And maybe that's a rating of our performance over the course of time. Who knows?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, at least we've been more consistent than the volatility of stocks. That's for sure. Well, and hey, you know what? Next week should be pretty fun. Look at your calendar and see what day it is. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
So
now I got to look.
And you'll forget about it.
Yes.
Should be fun. All right, everybody. So if anybody came on here late, I know one of the questions that had come in early, I sent a note and said, hey, we're getting ready to answer this live. And I think they jumped on it. But if somebody missed the front end of this and they want to catch up, that's fine. We'll put it up on the BGW CPA YouTube channel. This afternoon, it'll be up. And so thanks again for everybody for jumping on this. We appreciate you. We'll do this as long as it provides value. And then as soon as it stops providing value, we'll stop. So anyway, we appreciate you. Jack, thank you so much. Adam, thank you. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys. See ya.
See ya.
Thanks, guys. Bye.